Obviously, the vast majority of our questions this week revolved around staking, right? How do I look at the staking list? I'm sure Kelly will send out a link. I think she's already had done that, but I think she'll send it out again this week, where you can go onto the Joanne Staking website and take a look to see where we've staked your particular horse. Now, every year we get a lot of people saying, Anthony, if you look at the numbers, we haven't won any Grand Circuit events. We haven't done well in very many. The only ones that I can remember off the top of my mind, I know Lawmaker raced in the Beal, White Tiger had raced in some races, White Tiger raced in the Breeders' Crown, I believe, at 3. So did Lawmaker. Lawmaker definitely did. Things of that nature. There wasn't a lot of money made in the Grand Circuit events. So I guess that's a fair question. But at the same time, we're not two things that go along with staking. Now, obviously, the first one is to race in the stake races. As our stable grows and gets better, we want to get better horses, better pedigrees. And it's very difficult. Every year I work hard to try and pinpoint value where I can in horses, and there's no way to know until they get to the races. But I'm certainly not going to go out and buy a $115,000 brother to plunge blue chip and not stake him accordingly, or a full sister to Crystal Fashion and not stake her accordingly. And a lot of the horses that train down with these horses also, if they look good, we want to make sure that we keep them eligible to some of those stake races. And I know it's costly. You don't have to tell me. I'm looking at my exposure of the staking bill, and it's extensive. And it's very worrisome. One shining point, I suppose, would be the mail seemed to speed up a little bit this week. So that's great. I don't know if it was from one place to Ontario or whether it was the whole of the U.S. and Canada combined. I'm hoping that the mail service will speed up. Now, the only problem was we were waiting for our Ohio checks from Ohio, and the Ohio sales company was kind enough to FedEx them. FedEx was ultra super kind in losing it. They sent it somehow. I got a phone call from somebody saying that it is, we're trying to locate it in our warehouse in Memphis. I've driven from Ohio to Ontario hundreds of times. I have never once passed through Memphis, Tennessee. So that's frustrating, but we'll get through it. It's not the end of the world. It's just another speed bump along the way. So back to the staking. You guys can see why we stake the horses. We don't want to rip the dreams and hopes away, because that's what most of us are in this for, right? We dream of being able to race in big races and hope that we can hoist a trophy or get a picture taken at one point. And as I said in the opening, the speed in which this game moves, right? The speed in which we're bombarded week after week after week, the good is sometimes washed away, right? Sometimes by the bad and sometimes just by time. For the people out there that think we've never had any luck, as I said again in the opening, we broke, trained down Swandre the Giant. Now, we sent him to Brandon Bates. He did an incredible job with the horse, but he left here in June after he trained in 2.5 at our training center. So here's a horse that was sold for $1 million. Now, that ties into the second part of the staking, which is very important. If we're offered money for any of these 2-year-olds, the first thing a buyer looks for is what's the horse eligible to. Now, being that they could be potentially buying the horse from the stable, they have a lot more to look at, don't they? Past training videos, commentary videos along the way. But what they're eligible to plays a big role. You can be sure, and we had talked about this, the owners of Swandre the Giant, myself, when the horse was one, being staked, and then that came to fruition later on when people were offering them money for the horses. Obviously, $1 million wasn't the first offer. They were fairly steadfast with their turning down of potential suitors, which was ballsy and well played. But at the same time, there wouldn't have been those potential suitors had the horse not been eligible to the Hambletonian when he was 3, the Breeders' Crown, the Canadian Trotting Classic, things of that nature. And I had told them that when they went to stake the horse as a baby. I said, you can stake him in Indiana, but if he turns out really good and you want to sell him, you're not going to get Grand Circuit money for a regionally staked horse. That's pretty much what it comes down to. So that plays into how we stake these horses also. I can tell you that, I've said this before, behind me is my house. I didn't opt for the steel roof when I put the roof on it this year because it was too expensive. But I did put the best roof on that I could, and that was simply for resale value. So food for thought when you're talking about the staking. It isn't just about the staking, it's also about resale value. We had a number of other clients talking about horses that maybe didn't cost a lot, so why would you stake them to a lot? One in particular was just Ohio, saying a horse like You Gotta Believe. Let's not stake him to the Ohio Breeders in the Breeders' Championship in the middle of the season. Just stake him to the fairs. No, we're not doing that. And not, no disrespect to the person that asked that, but had we followed that trend at all, My Jazz would have been paid into nothing but the fairs last year. She was absolutely nothing special until July, right? There'd be no way for us to know that. When you look back and say, well, we knew Lawmaker had talent, Swander the Giant, Cruising in Style, White Tiger, we knew these horses were good in January. It doesn't always work out that way. And although I don't know, it funny that You Gotta Believe was brought up, because I did this year. I was, instead of calling the staking company and going over it on the phone, they have an online version now where I could go in. So for 5 days, I went back and forth, clicked off stakes, maybe added one, took some off, and the last revision I made of all of our horses was to put You Gotta Believe in the Ohio Breeders' Championship in the other one. I don't know if that was the right way to go or not. I guess in all fairness, I can't see from what I've seen right now from You Gotta Believe that he is a horse we need to put in the highest tier in Ohio. I can't really say that. So I'm just reading a text that came across the screen saying Flamboro's canceled for Sunday. Canceled Saturday, canceled Sunday. You know, I know it's raining in +3, but for the love of Jesus, you should be able to scrape the track, put material on it, and race. So frustrating when this happens. Anyway, the staking, when it comes to the staking of our horses, it's quite simple. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to be conservative. I'm trying to learn from the past. But that doesn't mean by learning from the past we just take away stakes more and more and more. I've learned from the My Jazz situation. I've learned from the Swander the Giant situation. But I've also learned from the tons of situations before where we simply stake them to too much. So I'm trying to put a stronger base of regional staking together and mix in some of the staking where if this horse turns out to be as good as it could be, we have multiple paths. And that is why I went down the road I went down. So I understand there's going to be some questions, and keep them coming. Keep the emails coming, comments coming, good, bad, or otherwise. It's always nice to have an open dialogue with our clients. So when it comes to the staking, it's a two-pronged approach. One, not crushing the dreams and the hopes of myself and our partners by saying, oh, we're not paying them into any of this stuff. But at the same time, being responsible. That's what I'm trying to do. And then the second point, obviously, is keep in mind the resale value of these horses will be greatly diminished if they're not paid into anything. So those are the two driving forces behind how we stake the horses. This year is quite a bit lower than it was last year. We had more horses, but I think if we had somebody out there to really chop it up and break it down in February, this is how much was paid per horse. This year would be lower than the previous year. So that is where we're at with the staking. That's how I arrived on the staking. I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes all the time. So feel free to go into the Joanne Staking, the staking website, peruse through the horses. And if you're wondering, why is this horse paid to this and why isn't this horse paid to this, drop me a line. Ask me a question. I will be more than happy to answer it. Take care.